Hello, my name is Kernahan Webb. I am a professor in the Law and Business Department at Toronto Metropolitan University. And more importantly, for today's purposes, I am the director of the Toronto Metropolitan University Institute for the Study of Corporate Social Responsibility. For those of you who are patching in for the first time to one of our in-conversation sessions, welcome. And for those of you who are making a return engagement, welcome back. Today, we're going to be discussing the Australian government's response to the Bondi Beach tragedy, a legal analysis, and we'll be in conversation with Professor Benedict Sheehy of the University of Canberra Law School. And I just wanted to mention that these sorts of sessions that we have fairly regularly are done in the spirit of constructive engagement, particularly looking at what sort of combination of government action through laws or otherwise, private sector action through their industry standards and so on, or civil society action through a variety of different ways, can optimally respond to a particular social, environmental, or economic issue, as the case might be. Next slide, please. The Toronto Metropolitan University is located in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Just to mention as well, the Toronto Metropolitan University was formerly known as Ryerson University, so apologies for anyone confused by that name change. All Toronto Metropolitan University CSR Institute sessions are animated by this definition of social responsibility, which comes from the ISO 26000 social responsibility standard, which is a guidance standard developed by ISO. ISO is a international non-governmental body. So, for example, it's not part of the United Nations, and it is a body that brings together public sector, private sector, and civil society organizations and individuals from around the world to develop standards, so voluntary instruments, not laws, that are intended to enhance the ability for organizations and individuals to operate across borders. As you can see from the definition of social responsibility, which I might add is the standard was developed by more than 300 different organizations and individuals from around the world through a transparent and consensus-based approach. And there were both developed country and developing country participants. A real attempt was made to have a balance from all sectors and from both the global south and the global north, as the case might be. The actual standard is more than 100 pages long, but a critical component of it was this definition of social responsibility, which, as you can see here, is about the impacts of an organization's decisions and activities on society and on the environment through transparent and ethical behavior, contributing to sustainable development. Sustainable development being development that meets the needs of current generations without compromising the needs of future generations, contributing as well to health and welfare of society, taking into account the expectations of stakeholders. Just to note that stakeholders is a very broad term encompassing, yes, certainly shareholders, but also citizens, communities, non-government organizations, businesses, governments, and so on. So it is a Stakeholders is a very encompassing term, and is in compliance with applicable law and consistent with international norms of behavior, and is integrated throughout the organization as well as practiced in its relationships. So with respect to that latter point, it means that the organization itself attempts to ensure that the way in which it operates internally is all addressing these sorts of points, but also in its relationships, for example, with communities, with citizens, with consumers, with workers, with governments, and so on. So it's both inside the organization and also outside of the organization, as the case might be. Next slide, please. The second animating concept for all of the TMU CSR Institute sessions is the concept of sustainable governance, which, as you can see here, basically starts from the proposition that in the 21st century, where we have very, very complex and challenging environmental, social, and economic issues that don't neatly stay in one jurisdiction. They tend to bleed from one jurisdiction to another. They tend to be fast evolving, oftentimes with sort of a technological angle to them. So given the nature of the problems that we face in the 21st century, the idea behind sustainable governance is that all three of government, the private sector, and civil society have unique capabilities to address the sorts of problems that we face in the 21st century. And they each have got the capability to do that through rule instruments, processes, institutions, and actors. I'll say more about what those are in a second. Sometimes operating collaboratively, and sometimes operating more in more of a check and balance or rivalrous manner. In other words, it's not always about holding hands and dancing around the maypole, although collaboration oftentimes is a very powerful approach. Sometimes there's actually competition between one initiative and another, or even between between the government and the private sector or civil society. And arguably, that sort of challenge capability between actors, instruments, institutions, and processes is a positive thing, because it tends to lead to innovation, and it tends to increase the likelihood that we have the best combination of approaches in place at any particular time. Next slide, please. Just unpacking a little bit more how the terms institutions, rule instruments, processes, and actors is defined for purposes of sustainable governance. Institutions refers to those entities in society that carry out public interest-oriented functions. So that could be rulemaking. In the case of government, that would probably mostly consist of legislation and regulations. But if we were talking about industry, we might be talking about an industry association's code that all members must sign on to. That's an example of the entity that creates those rules for industry would be a institution for industry. And by the same token, with respect to civil society, an environmental organization could have a body within it that creates the rules, and another body in it that is involved in the implementation of them. And the same is true with respect to private sector and government. So you could have a government agency that's involved in enforcement, and that would be a separate institution, and another agency that's involved in adjudication, for example, courts. And there could be different ones for dispute resolution and adjudication and so on when we're talking about the private sector and civil society. Those are all institutions because they're all carrying out public interest-oriented functions. Then there's rule instruments. So rule instruments can certainly include law and regulation, and oftentimes do. And clearly, governments as institutions and legislatures and laws are critically important rule instruments, but it also could include, as I mentioned earlier, an industry association set of rules that all members of the industry association must meet, or for that matter, a civil society organization like ISO that creates standards that are not legislation, they're voluntary, but they can be adopted, widely adopted. And then processes. So there's processes of rulemaking, such as lawmaking for government or standards making for non-governmental organizations. Rule applications, so that would be inspections and enforcement for government, but it would be things like conformity assessment, certification, auditing, that sort of thing for non-state entities. And same thing with respect to rule implementation, where it would be a regulatory agency on the government side, but it would be, for example, a wing of the industry association that's involved in monitoring compliance with a industry rule and that sort of thing. And then finally, there are actors, and actors encompasses both individuals, for example, individuals within government, bureaucrats and so on, or judges, and individuals within corporations and individuals within civil society organizations like an environmental organization. But it also includes the broader entity itself. That's also an actor. So for example, Greenpeace is an actor and at the same time as the individuals within Greenpeace are actors. And the same thing is true with respect to government, where you could have the Legislative Assembly is an actor at the same time as the individual elected representatives are actors. So they're all actors and they're all interacting, and it's the interaction among them which, when you take all of these concepts and put it together, leads to the distinctive approach to addressing a particular issue. And certainly that would be relevant to our discussion here today, where all three of government, the private sector, and civil society have got unique capabilities of addressing a situation such as anti-Semitism and what can be done to prevent that. And then when it does happen, what can be done by each of government, the private sector, and civil society to respond to it once it does happen. Next slide, please. Just to let you know that we are constantly holding these sorts of sessions on a wide variety of different topics to determine what the next ones are. There's two possibilities. One is that you can check the CSR Institute website. So just Google TMU CSR Institute, and that will take you to the website and you will see upcoming events. And also you can get on the mailing list, at which point you'll get a prompt from the CSR Institute regarding upcoming events and that sort of thing. We have an ongoing project concerning the current turmoil that's happening at the global level in terms of the rule of law and the international rules-based order. And so that's going on. There'll be more sessions on that coming up. And there's also, as you can see here, there's a place where you can go on the CSR Institute website to get more information concerning that ongoing work. And as you can see from the rest of this slide, there's a number of other things that we are doing here that may be of interest to you. I'm not going to go through each of them here now. Next slide, please. So our guest speaker for today is Professor Benedict Sheehy, who is a professor at the University of Canberra Law School in Australia, holding a PhD degree from Australian National University and a PhD Juris Doctor from the University of Windsor, also holding master's degrees from University of Queensland and McMaster University. So both sort of Canadian and Australian degrees here. And he also has a bachelor's degree from Eastern PBC. He is an internationally recognized leader in the fields of corporate social responsibility, corporate law, and regulatory theory. He's published extensively in leading legal and other journals. And his work, the one thing you can say about it, even though he covers off a wide variety of different topics, the one thing you can say is that kind of a distinctive feature is its interdisciplinary nature, that it typically involves people from a variety of different disciplines, and hence as well, it involves typically publishing in more than just law journals. Next slide, please. So about this session specifically, I think everybody knows that there was this horrific anti-Semitic attack on peaceful grouping of individuals in Australia, and the two gunmen attacked them during a Hanukkah celebration at a park adjacent to Bondi Beach. That's why it's referred to as the Bondi Beach tragedy in Sydney, Australia. It led to a killing of 15 people and injuring of dozens more. And in the aftermath, serious questions being raised about the adequacy of the Australian government's legal and regulatory response to the risks of mass casualty violence in general in open public spaces, and this particular type of mass casualty violence, namely an anti-Semitic attack. This 1-hour session examines how Australia's firearms laws, policing powers, emergency management frameworks, and public safety regulations operated before, during, and after the incident, and whether they were fit for the purpose in preventing, containing, and responding to the attack. So you can see there the sorts of themes that we're going to be addressing: fragmented legal authority, interagency coordination, information sharing and escalation pathways, and just basically how to maintain an appropriate balance between civil liberties and public protection on challenging issues like that. So we'll also be talking about possible reforms beyond the direct analysis of the currently existing approaches, if time allows. Next slide, please. Just a final mention that this session is being held at a particular time in Canada, but there are people patching in from around the world, and self-evidently, we're all in different time zones. So props to you for everybody patching in at the different time that you're in. If you do have a question or comment during the session, please email me, and I'll do my best to fold that into the session. Now, all this having been said, 5 p.m. Toronto time, which is where I am, is actually the next day in Australia. So it's Wednesday in Australia, and it's 9 a.m. in Australia. And I have not, I can see here, Luke, if you can confirm, Benedict, after all of this, Benedict has actually not been able to patch in, and I've been checking. He has not contacted me. What I'm going to suggest is that, and I'm very apologetic about this. I don't know. I'm hoping, and I'm sure you are, that nothing's happened to Benedict, and that is the reason why he has not patched in. I'm anticipating that it might be something more banal, like just an alarm clock didn't go off, or that what is considered to be 5 p.m. here and what is considered to be 5 p.m. or equivalent time in Canberra, Australia, just we've made some sort of a foul up. I do apologize on behalf of TMU University and the CSR Institute in particular. I will, for the time being, I will just take this on my shoulders that this is some sort of a mistake that I have made, and I apologize, but it looks like this is going to be a very short session, and I will do my best to connect with Benedict and arrange this for another time. I do apologize for all of you who've patched in for this time here now today. And I do hope to see you and to see Benedict in the near future. We will reschedule this. The one thing that's good about the event not going ahead now is that with every passing day in Australia, the response of the Australian government is evolving. So this gives us more time to see that evolving response and the response of others to the Australian response. So again, I deeply apologize to everyone for the inconvenience, and I will post up on the CSR Institute webpage and also in email and an email when the rescheduled session will take place, assuming that we can reschedule it. And I'm going to wish you now all the best for the day. And again, my deepest apologies. This is the first time this has happened. Benedict did an excellent session with us back in 2021. And so I had been thinking that everything was going to work out well here, but sometimes things just don't. And so I'm very apologetic about that, but hopefully everything is okay on Benedict's side, and we will reconvene at another time. Thanks again. All the best.